Hello, this is Dave, and welcome to Equities Story. I'm here with Mr. Wolf, and just say this is obviously just a general share advice and not personal advice. Uh, Wolfie, um, you saw last night that a lot of I'll bring the commodity plays over to you so we can sort of just
Mhm.
have a look in and put this into context a little bit, right?
That's very right.
We saw last night crude coming back 10%.
Mhm.
Um, it's still up, 23% for the month, right? So it's still having a tremendous month. What we've seen across the board is a little bit of, you know, gold's up 8.93% for the month, but just coming back a little bit, just a breather. Wheat is up 43% for the month, but having a little bit of a breather. Um, Now, the reason we believe that these commodities are having a little bit of a breather is possibly there could be talk of peace between Ukraine and Russia. There's an outside chance, correct? And maybe a sort of
A
20.
slither of hope. A slither of hope, especially when they're meeting tonight. That is the foreign ministers of Russia and Ukraine, I think, being facilitated by Turkey, right? So you never know. I mean, something could come out of it. I think maybe that what the market is just saying, let's take some profits, right? We see some easing of the commodity prices, which is quite normal anyway, because they spiked up ridiculously high. So that's okay. However, if you look at overall picture, Dave, I still think there's not a lot of clarity what's going on. So,
And
um,
and I think the crunch thing is what happened is the polls said they were going to give 28 MiG fighters to Ukraine, and
through US.
but the US have basically come back and said, well, if you do that, it's nothing to do with us. So
Yes, well,
you're on your own. And
exactly.
the polls have said, nah, you better not have those fighters. And I think Ukraine have basically said, okay, we need to go. If the West isn't going to give us that sort of help, we need to
Mhm.
come to an agreement with the Russians. Now the Russians are most probably looking for an agreement because they're bogged down. They've obviously, I don't think they've realized how the West was going to combine against them with all these tariffs and embargoes, and I think there's a chance that it could push both people to the negotiation table, both groups. So how does that affect us? Well, we've been talking about the war stocks and been making money with them. What it means if you're trading them, don't be greedy. Things like AGG, which has had a great move, either tighten your stop, really tight. Wolf will take a profit. CRN doing very, very well. Even tighten your stop or take a profit.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, horrible to say, but if there is no peace and they don't come to an agreement in Turkey, well, we can buy them back next Monday. That's fine. That's a great thing about shares. You can get in and out very, very quickly. Um,
Yes.
and just play those stop losses that we put on and see what happens over the next 3 or 4 days. But I think if you're trading at the moment, your psyche has to be tighten stop losses or take profits and see where we are on Monday morning.
Absolutely, because it's going to be volatile, and it has been volatile. And you just never know, Dave, what tomorrow brings. That's the thing here. I know there's a lot of uncertainty around, but there could be a left field type agreement, and down the commodities come down, right? So you got to be wary of that. So for me, strategy wise, if you see a good profit, tighten stop loss or take the profit.
Thank you, Wolf. Now, I just want to talk about Nick again because I've had a few emails from people saying, Dave, come on, this stock has been sold down. It's nothing to do with the company. The company's really good. Why Equity Story suggesting sell it? Surely it's an opportunity to buy. Now, we don't see it like that, and there's a little bit of a reason being, Wolf. Historically, when companies have a bit of bad news, you tend to get follow through and you tend to get more news going down. And when you've got a level of risk, for us, it just doesn't tick a box to trade. So unfortunately, it's a really, really annoying because we've seen nickel prices do
Mm-hmm.
fantastic moves this week, and we've seen other nickel stocks doing very, very, very well. And the one we really put our hopes on with nickel, which
Yeah.
is it's a great story, but they've got this issue with the biggest shareholder, and you know what? We're just not going to risk our money, right? So unfortunately, it's a loss. We cut it, we move out, and we move on, and that's
I think you're absolutely right what you said there. And look, if you're an investor that doesn't mind a bit of risk, then yeah, look, maybe you can, I don't know, do whatever you want to do with that story. But for us, that box the box where the risk with drama, unfortunately, has just been unwound. So for me, there's better stories out there with no drama attached to them. And what actually happens when there's a little bit of drama around the company, it tends to put investors off. So we want to have 100%, every investor behind this story. And we've got a few investors that maybe are now arming and going, maybe, this story's not for me. This is why it's going to be more difficult to trade this. Hence, I think it's just better to move on to something else.
Thanks, Wolf. Now, I want to talk about some announcements also, Wolfie, that came out today.
All right.
And if you've got time afterwards, hopefully you've got time. I just want to have a look at some of the dividend plays. So,
do anything, Dave.
Eagle Mountain,
Yes.
again, has I thought it was a very good announcement, Wolf. They've upped their contained copper from 251,000 to 332,000 of contained copper. That's I think roughly around a 53% increase in total tonnage, all in all. It's really started. They did lower their copper grade from 1% to 0.8, which and the reason they've done that, obviously, with the higher copper prices, it makes sense to do that. But equally, if copper prices go down, that wouldn't make sense. But the general feeling is, well, copper prices, copper's going to be a good place for the next 2 or 3 years, correct?
Yeah, and look, the nice thing is, Dave, they've gave two scenarios here, right? One, just straight out increase in resources using the same cutoff that they used before. And that's still a decent increase. You're looking at 36% increase in contained copper and 39% increase in tons. Then they give the second scenario is, okay, higher copper prices, could potentially lead to, we can mine some lower grade stuff. We're going to lower the cutoff grade to 0.8. And that, again, give you a scenario of that increases 53%, right? On the top of that 1% cutoff and 32% increase contained copper. So at least it's nice. You can see where the company could be depending on where the copper prices might be in, say, 1 or 2 years' time. So you've got a couple of scenarios. Both are looking pretty good. Why not? It's definitely a positive announcement.
And Wolf, how do you, when you look at copper tonnage, right? If you actually look at the tonnage they've got, how would you value a mine like Eagle Mountain?
Oh, look, it's not easy, depending on a lot of assumptions, costs, of course, and so on. So, look, I am thinking, I'm going to use the first assumption that they've had, which is still using the 1% copper cutoff. They've got about 250,000 contained copper in there, 8.2 million ounces of silver, and about 100,000 of gold, right? So for me, 250,000 contained copper, I don't know, can they mine about 10,000 per annum, maybe 15,000 per annum, maybe even 20,000 per annum, right? That will give them at least like a 10-year mine life, I'd say. That's decent. I mean, how would I value that? It's good. It's a good question, Dave, and I probably can't give you an answer right now, but it's probably higher than it is what the market cap is right now. That's for sure. Okay. As long as, of course, the numbers in the feasibility study come through positive.
Yeah, definitely. And I think they've got plenty more drill results to come. So.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of drilling still.
All right, it's a good story, this, and we're going to keep a close eye on it. It's Pan. Now, Wolf had a really nice little buy signal. It's gone through it very, very nicely. Their announcement today, what did you make of that?
I didn't see it.
Okay.
Thanks for that.
So I was correct. You weren't working this morning. You did have a lie in bed.
I was, but I was working on other things. I was reading about the Ukraine and Russia stuff.
Well, it's just what they're saying is a new nickel zone discovered.
Okay, well, look, that's always a positive, right?
Yeah.
Give me the grades. Come on, give me the grades. What did they discover?
They just had a hole like 5.7 meters at 1.47.
Okay.
No, but just.
So look, it seems like they possibly can. When they've got a new zone, especially when it's close to the mine already, and this is what happens with these nickel players, right? So they'll keep digging holes and move towards the next blob, as you like to call it, because that's your mining term that you love to use.
Yeah, because
and they'll move from blob to blob. So this is another zone that can potentially go down to and mine.
So more blobs.
Yep, more blobs is good.
All right. Now let's talk about PLL.
Yes.
Because again, this. Technically, you look at this chart, Wolf. and it looks like this on Friday close, you'd be buying it, right?
Yes.
My question to you is fundamentally, with the announcement coming out today, would you be buying into this?
Fundamentally, it's a good question whether I'd be buying this. If I was looking for a lithium player, it's definitely one I'd be looking at. So if I maybe add the technicals to it, then for a trade to start off with, yes. And the reason why I say I'd be definitely interested is because it's one of the very few players that's looking at lithium hydroxide. You know, it's actually going to add value to the actual product, not just mine the lithium and then give it to someone else to process. They look like they're going to do it themselves because they already got Carolina plant that they gave numbers for and feasibility study. So this is the second one they're looking at. It's not as good as the first one, but I like the strategy of adding value to what you dig up. And that's a strategy that's been taken by West Farmers. IGO bought into Greenbushes, which is the highest grade mine in the world for lithium, plus a 50%, I think, ownership of hydroxide plant in Kwinana. So that's the strategy to go for, because there's also an article in the paper the other day, Dave, saying that if things maybe moderate lithium price-wise, where you're going to make the most money is through the hydroxide plants, not the actual mining out of it. So if you're going for a long-term type view, that's the sort of players you'd be looking at, PLLs of the world that are actually going to add value to the mining.
Yeah, the only risk is that is there permissions from the.
That's always the risk, Dave. All the permits, environmental things, and whether they're going to obviously get the actual capex. Because if you look at the first plant that they've got, the Carolina one, it's going to cost them about $1 billion, right? The second one, today's announcement, which obviously the market likes it because the actual numbers on the capex front are probably half. I think they're talking about $500-something million for the plant, but the numbers are lower for for the actual numbers themselves in I think higher costs and lower margins on the second plant. But it's understandable, right? The first one's always going to be the best. The second one's still going to be probably economical, but maybe it's not going to be as great, but it's lower, cheaper, so maybe it will still work out for them. But look, I still like the strategy. I think it's the best way to go, as long as they can get all that funding together.
Excellent, Wolf, and certainly that chart, if it looks like that, is looking good for next week. Yeah. IHL, which I think this chart is looking very sideways at the moment. I still think this is a take profit if I was in it, Wolf. But again, another good announcement. It doesn't really mean too much. It's only phase 2 trials for one of their drugs, but encouraging, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. This is what they do, right? They keep the encouragement going with the process of going through those testing phases. And yep, another box tick for them.
All right. Well, thank you for that. I just want to reiterate the large cap dividend plays and the small cap, yeah?
All right,
and just see, Wolf, if you can, just see who's due for a dividend soon. So if you could give us some dividend dates, that would be good. So BHP is still looking very good. For me, this is still, I would have no problem someone buying this right now as a dividend. When are they due to pay us some money, Wolf?
Oh, they already did that. That's why you see that big red candle 3 weeks ago, Dave. That was the dividend.
Okay, that was the dividend.
Yep.
When's the next one? Do we know when?
Well, it goes in half yearly, so the next one will be in 6 months' time.
Okay. SUL, Wolf. Again, they're just sort of holding up. Really, I mean, you don't want to see this much below $10, but they're coming back quite nicely at 359. So on a monthly chart, dividend play, it's most probably still a hold. When did they pay their dividend? When's the next one due?
When ex-div on the 7th, which was the Monday, I think.
Okay, so we haven't got a dividend for 6 months from them.
No.
JB Hi-Fi, same story, I suppose, with a lot of these, right?
Yeah, they've already would have paid the dividend. So look, if you're in these, you've already got your nice big fat dividend. The cycle starts again. So basically, it's going to be weak for a little while until such time gets closer to that dividend date again. As long as they obviously deliver the right news, Dave, and still got support from the shareholders, it's still a hold. I mean, that's the whole strategy of dividend plays, right? You hold on for those dividends and a bit of growth, and the cycle every 6 months it repeats itself over and over again. So JB Hi, let me tell you that one. So we've got dividends. They paid it on the 23rd. That was that red candle 3 weeks ago again. So they're actually holding up very well.
They are doing really well, aren't they? And Cov,
Let's have a look. Cough. I don't have the data for this one, so apologies for that one. I'll have to find it. It's because it pays the distributions of a dividend, so it's a little bit different on my system. I can't find it for the moment. Suncorp, let's have a look at that one for you. And Suncorp paid the dividends on the 2nd of March. So you can see that red candle there was paid up already. So again, you'll go through a process.
how does it make cash? Because when did they recently pay their dividend, Wolf? Because they've held up very well if they paid it recently. And they've got
upcoming. Oh, interesting. I don't have the news for this one. Wonder why. All right, let's leave that one for the moment. I'll come back to it in a sec. Keep going. What's the next one?
Yeah, I'll tell you the impressive thing about Metcash. At the moment, it's actually looking like a buy. So I'm just wondering if that dividend is coming back. Normally they pay their dividend in July and December, Wolf, which is quite interesting.
It is.
So slightly different to where
let's just have a look then. I'm going to go to the past. And yeah, you're right. So they paid it on. So okay, so I actually have found it because it's not upcoming. It actually has been in the past. They paid that on the 21st of December.
I'll tell you what, this is one that I think if I was really looking for a dividend play at the moment, I'd have a look at. The chart looks good. It looks like it's trending up. It's in the right space, and got nice little buy signal.
There you go.
All right, ANZ. Obviously just paid it recently, so we've got that little bit of weakness. CQR. Wolf, have you got CQR when their dividend is due?
Another one that pays distribution, so I'm not sure I'll be able to pick it up on Reuters, but let me just double check. Maybe they have. Oh, actually they have. Okay, so they've paid it when ex-div on the 30th of December. All right, so again, they probably 6 months. End of June.
Yeah, and again, Wolf, you've just seen this normal weakness, aren't you? At that time, but again, it's starting to look good. I mean, the charts is starting to look. If you're not in this, you'd be worth having a look at it.
But I think that just go back to the CQR because this is what I'm talking about, the cyclical of it, right? So they pay the ex dividends. You see a bit of a weakness for the next maybe few weeks, and then the cycle starts again when people start buying it closer to the dividends. And this is what you're hoping out of your stories, right? You pick up those 6, 7, 8% dividend yields. Hopefully, it will give you a little bit of growth as well, share price wise, and that's how you play these. All right, next one.
Yeah, definitely NEC holding up very nicely, Wolf, on the trend line.
You'll have a look when they're paying that one, and they've gone ex-div on the 3rd of March.
They've done very well.
Yeah, they have extremely holding
more or less held their div
because the actual growth is very good. So it's one of those companies pays a great dividend, but it's also got growth and positive outlook.
And likewise, Wolf Coles, which Coles looking superb.
And they've paid theirs on the 3rd of March.
Yeah, 3rd, wasn't it? Yeah, I remember. Again, look at that, holding up very, very well. So. Again, some good companies holding their divs, which is excellent.
Yeah, well, you've got to be happy with your dividend stories, right? I mean, if you're holding them, you would have got some nice big dividends, and now you're holding for the next 6 months.
Yeah, Wolf, I won't go through all the rest of them, but again, we've got COV, PTB, CAA, JYC, IGL, SXC, MTO, NTD, CSR, SFC, PTL. If you're looking for dividend plays, like I said, all these dividend plays averaging about 7.6% gross, and generally speaking, holding up and doing reasonably well. On that note, Wolf, war stocks, I just want to emphasize, take profits, tighten stop losses. There's a very important event coming, possibly tonight. Yeah. If there is peace, that we hope there is, obviously these stocks will go sold down even more. If there isn't peace, then we can have a look at the situation possibly tomorrow afternoon or Monday, and then we can decide what we're going to do.
Yeah, absolutely. So very, very small outside chance tonight something will happen. But this is why, there's possibly a huge risk event on tonight. So tight on the stop losses, and if there is a profit there, maybe think about it.
All right, fingers crossed. We get peace, Wolf, and have a lovely day. And looking forward to tomorrow. And good to see some of the weaker tech plays coming back a little bit. That's a good sign.
A little bit of buying.
Yeah. Nice. Okay. Thanks, Wolfie. Bye bye.